Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wise Tips. Eduardo, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you look different.
Yep, on the road doing some research and learning more. I like to be on the road when time is busy, when things are really hectic. That's where you see the pressure and the points that need some attention.
Yes, very, very true. Well, you know what? Again, we're gonna keep trying to beat our quota every time. This time it's gonna be a little hard because I know we have a lot to cover. But we've had so many updates and changes lately. I thought we would just go through a couple of the most recent updates that we've gone through, and kind of focus on some of the different facilities that we work with, and maybe a feature that would be most helpful for those facilities.
It's good
Um,
that gives a cross view, different perspectives.
yeah. So without further ado, I think it's time to bring up your screen, and we can go ahead and go through some of these examples.
Yep. Which one
So,
you'd like to go first?
well, I think we should start with our. I think we should start with our trainers out there. What's a feature that we've got? I think more recently that we implemented here for our trainers.
Well, on the trainer side, I think previously we already had something for. I think trainers are very concerned about buying a horse or starting a
Oh
new
yeah,
foal and breaking the horse and training, and it's all about sales, how much that horse cost and how much was the sales. So
right.
before we already had a link here on the patient file for weight, but now we have registered a new one for sale. So the system now allows the users to register the sale for each foal, for each horse, and therefore it also composes the list, and which becomes very nice for them to compare costs and profits. If they go for procedures later on, they can see on
Yeah.
the period of time, let's say that we stay with this horse for 18 months, so you have the purchase price, all the procedures, sales price. There you go. How much was the bottom line?
Love it. Sweet, short, sweet, and straight to the point. Like it. I think another big one that we've worked on quite recently, and this was a big one, and I'm super excited as I've had more and more users utilizing this, which is the online trainer approval for our racetrack
Oh,
practices.
yes, racetrack practices. So the first thing, of course, it would be under the settings for the program on tools and options. We have a tab here where the practices can go for the invoice preferences. And
Yes.
here they would have the chance to enable the invoice, you know, custom field for invoices. And it can be different terminologies. In this case, we chose for the racetracks. I think it's more associated to the trainers.
Yes.
But the beauty here is that we are allowing for the mobile vets to, you know, do the work throughout the month, and before closing the period, it was a hassle creating all the reports and providing those reports to the trainers for the trainers to review before sending those bills to the final customer.
Yeah.
So to cut the long process, make it shorter, we created an online review. So trainers are now, vets are now allowed, able to provide to each trainer a profile online that I can show here. Let's just go there real quick. Go to customers. I'm gonna pick one here by chance. Let's say Mr. Brett Davis. It's a nice trainer. So if I go to his account under settings, I'm going to be able to set up a profile trainer ID. And if I click on this little globe, it's going to give me that encrypted URL that I can copy, put on a regular browser, so that trainer can, on the browser, review all the invoices for that period, and they don't need to be a Wise Option user.
Yes. I love that. And they don't, it cuts back on emails, phone calls, text
PDF
messages.
file back
Oh
and forward. And one of the
yeah.
nicest thing is that if they find something on the invoice they don't like or have question marks, they can, through the
They can go
browser, send the question back to the vet,
Yep.
making questions, and the vet is notified because the vets have no idea who the trainers are checking there. So
Right.
every time a trainer puts some note in a particular patient file, Wise Option sends a notification back to the vet so the vet can answer, address the situation. Very straightforward. It's it is already cutting the chase here and making the process way faster, streamlining the operation for racetracks.
I like it. I like it. That's a big one. I think we did good there. Next one I've got is for our hospitals out there. And I think this one, I was really excited about this one too. And actually Eduardo and I just had a meeting about this too, because I was a little bit, he had the vision here and the brain. And I was like, Eduardo, I don't get it. We have to sit down for a second, which is vital scales.
That's right. I'll let you go on this one.
Okay, so they're throwing me under the bus on that one. That's fine. So in the hospital module, every horse, of course, has vitals, which you can measure. Vitals are everything, of course, from your typical TPR, right, to things like lameness or reflux. And there's a ton of other fields there. You can see here on our, specifically here for temperature, we have a really good example here of the scales that are present here that I've created. So you can see over at the bottom right corner, I've actually created 3 scales for high fever, mild fever, and normal temp. I just made up some numbers, guys. Don't come after me. And everyone has an associated color. So then you notice when you actually view the patient's temperature chart there, it's color coded according to that scale you created.
I love this because I'm personally such a visual creature.
Yes.
I like to scan, and if something catches my attention, when you create those thresholds, something changes. Whoa, let's check it out.
Yes, exactly. I like it. And then, of course, last but not least, our Repro people out there and our online board for ICSI updates.
ICSI, oh my goodness, that's such a crazy matrix, and the algorithm behind. In Wise Option, basically, we allow reproduction centers to create contracts for ICSIs. But the beauty of this is that throughout the process, they can extend, also thinking about outside other parties in the process, where you can share a link, for example, an aspiration center. You share a link with an aspiration center, and that aspiration center, once complete the work, can themselves update the mare record for you. And by doing that, they will be also updating the ICSI profile for that contract. So you know how many follicles, how many oocytes, and such. Next step, you also can share a link with the ICSI lab that is going to be, performing the injections. And likewise, those ICSI centers will be able to come in each one of those sites and determine the steps and the phase for each one. So basically, you are giving them the option to sell how many were injected, how many clipped, how many became vial embryos. And finally, you can complete the process by either freezing the embryos, shipping the embryos, or transferring the embryos. Wise Option gives you the entire life cycle in the process. One thing that I've noticed is that in the past, our users were pretty much using the ICSI module in Wise Option only for the final viable embryos, for completing the process for a recipient mare that received an embryo, so they could transfer. Now we are strongly encouraging our users to perform the entire cycle. After all, the aspiration centers will be performing the updating themselves, as well as the lab centers. The ICSI labs will be performing the updates themselves. So you will retrieve way more substantial and meaningful statistics or ratios about the work done, how many oocytes collected, how many became viable embryos. So this is not only a work that I believe that for reproduction centers is going to decrease the amount of work in text messages and back and forward communication process, but also increase the quality, like they say, bad input, bad output.
Yeah.
And if we have a better input in this case and a more thorough updates throughout the process, we're going to have more meaningful statistical reports about viability, economics, and everything that involves the ICSI process.
I like it. Well, some super exciting features here. If you have any questions about any of the features we've gone over, of course, anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll be working on getting some tutorials up for all of these new features here. But in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out, and thanks so much for watching.
Bye.